Om Ajnanatimrandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikeshindriyatmane Namaha Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nivritatmane Swarga Pavargadvaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namah Namah Hiranyaviryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing with our discussion of Madhurya Kadambini, which is a commentary, an essay by one of our most preeminent acharyas in our line, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And in the previous two sessions, in the first session, we looked at the personality of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And in the second session, we looked at the first shower of nectar. And we call this the first, second, third showers of nectar, simply because Madhurya, which is sweetness, which is nectar, is Kadambini, is the cloud of nectar. So it is said that Sri Krishna Chaitanya, out of his costless mercy, blesses us and pours down the nectar of pure devotional service and the ability for us to engage in pure devotional service. And those cloud banks of nectar, which are completely concentrated, are called Kadambini. So we have Madhurya and Kadambini, Madhurya Kadambini. And we are now going to discuss the second shower of nectar. But before we go into the second shower of nectar, let's talk about the first shower. We'll do a quick recap of the previous week, as it always helps for us to be in continuity and be in connection with what we already discussed. So in the previous week, we wanted to examine the cause of bhakti. We have to understand the cause of bhakti, and it was fascinating to see several statements from authoritative scriptures which eventually concluded that Sri Bhakti Devi is independent. She is, of course, the potency of Krishna, but she acts independently. Bhakti comes first, Krishna follows. We even reached the conclusion that since Krishna is subservient to his devotees, he cannot give bhakti, right? Bhakti first comes and then Krishna follows. He is subservient. It was seen that way in the previous week's discussion. Since he is subservient, he cannot give bhakti. Bhakti is independent of Krishna, and bhakti comes on her own accord, and bhakti is given by those who hold it in their hearts. In other words, it is the devotees of Krishna who are capable of bestowing Krishna bhakti. And that is the primary reason why Krishna himself appears as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had to experience what it is to be a devotee. And it was because he came down as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is the reservoir of love. He had the reservoir of love, Srimati Radharani, his mood. He was able to bestow intense bhakti in such an extraordinary, non-discriminatory manner across the entire universe. So we also found that there were several verses which spoke of this. We're going to take about Srimad Bhagavatam 11:28. Edrachaya mat Nectar-Adau jata shraddhastu ya puman na virno na nirvinno natishakto bhakti yogosya siddhidaha. There are no diacritics here, so it's difficult for me to read the English translation as it is. Bhakti has been described by the word yadrachaya, or own volition. For example, is this fortune because of pious activities, or misfortune because of impious acts, or simply a lack of good actions? If we accept that good fortune as a result of pious activities creates bhakti, then it makes bhakti dependent upon and subservient to pious activities. So pious activities cannot bestow bhakti. Karma unmukha sukriti is very different from jnana unmukha sukriti, is very different from bhakti unmukha sukriti. Then there's one more statement here from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He is quoting 11.2.46 Srimad Bhagavatam. An intermediate or second-class devotee called Madhyam Adhikari offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord, shows mercy to the ignorant people who are innocent, and disregards those who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in other words, there is some discrimination amongst the about the Madhyamadikari. Here he is quoting that particular distinction to show that the devotees of the Lord discriminate in being able to pass on bhakti. So they hold it. So they judge and then they pass on more and more information. So next, the commentary comes from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. These characteristics clearly indicate that the Madhyamadikari devotees does not distribute his mercy equally to everyone. The truth is that the Supreme Lord is subservient to his devotees' wishes. Therefore, he emulates his devotee in disbursing mercy. So Krishna emulates his devotee. So Krishna emulates his devotee just as much as a school teacher has to discriminate among different students. You see, if a school teacher is not considered to be fair, if she gives the same level of grades for those who attend class, who are very sincere, who prepare well for the exams, who put in some extra endeavor, read extra material, and so on and so forth, participate fully, and she gives the same grades to someone who is delinquent, who does not come often, who is a disturbance in the class, and who does not do any work. Now, it is not considered to be fair if she were to hand out the same grades. And it would not be considered that she is partial if she were to hand out good grades to one who has performed well, or she feels favorable towards such a student, and she feels unfavorable towards someone who is not behaving well, and as a consequence, she treats him a little differently. Okay? You cannot really call that impartial, because they're basically reciprocating to behavior, they're reciprocating to the result. Okay? So in a similar manner, Krishna reciprocates to the devotees, and this is seen in the Madhyamadikari. Krishna's reciprocation with the devotees is seen in the Madhyamadikari as well, where he basically discriminates and gives results based on the level of surrender and the level of desires one holds. Okay? So now why are we going through this? We just wanted to do a quick recap of the previous week. Okay? Now there's one more powerful statement from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? And this is from 11:12:9. That devotional service cannot be obtained even by diligently cultivating yoga, empirical and deductive knowledge, performing charity, fasting, penances, sacrifices, studying and analyzing the Vedas, renunciation, etc. This is very obvious. Okay? So final conclusion is this paragraph from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says, here one may present a counter-argument saying that the devotees are always under the Lord's control. Therefore, how can the devotee's mercy appear first, independently, and not as a successor to the Lord's causeless compassion? Krishna himself provides a solution to this problem by openly declaring that he is voluntarily subservient to his pure devotees. Now, what does this statement mean, the last statement? Krishna himself provides a solution to this problem by openly declaring that he is voluntarily subservient to his pure devotees. It means that attaining Bhava Bhakti is Sudurlabha. Very, very difficult to attain Bhava and Prema because Krishna becomes subservient. Krishna becoming subservient essentially means that attaining such a position is very rare. It's quite rare. Okay? But the process which has been given to us by Lord Chaitanya and by our acharyas is so potent that they have given us various stages to reach the position where Krishna becomes subservient to our love. He becomes completely subservient to the Bhava Bhakta. He becomes completely subservient to the Prema Bhakta. And we see this in the behavior of Rajavasis. We see this in the behavior of Mother Yashoda, where she is able to capture him, tie him up, chastise him as she would a normal child. We see this in the behavior of his sakas, the friends, where they're able to say, Krishna, my feet are paining, Krishna. Please, Krishna, press my feet. I've been walking for so long. We've been playing. Now the afternoon rest is there. Let me keep my feet on you, and then, why don't you press my feet? Give me some relief. We see those pictures where Krishna serves his dearest friends. Okay? This is subservience. What is it which draws this subservience? This subservience is drawn by Sambandha. Okay? Krishna is responding to a very special relationship which the devotee has displayed. He is responding, saying, you want to be a friend, you want to be my mother, you want to be my parent, you want to be my servant, and so on and so forth. All of this is a reciprocation, and he reciprocates with love and the Aishwarya Bhava of Krishna, or the opulence and the power and so on and so forth, is completely overpowered by the Madhurya, the sweetness that is found in Brajadam. Okay? And that is the reason why Bhava is so rare. Why is it so Sudurlabha? Why does the scripture say that it is extraordinarily rare? Why does it say that Prema is rare? It says that also because Krishna becomes subservient. Now, please understand the opportunity that has been afforded us. We have been afforded the same opportunity a Vrajvasi in the eternal realm of Golokadam has. We now have the opportunity to be able to become Krishna's friend. We have the opportunity to treat him in Vatsalya Rati, where we want to treat him as a child. He becomes dependent on us. He says, I'm your child. I'm dependent. You have to take care of me. I'm hungry. He creates all those wonderful scenarios. Not he. It's naturally created because of the mood of loving exchange. And Sri Yogamaya facilitates this so wonderfully that people are able to reciprocate with their Lord so nicely. Now, please understand that this is the opportunity that has been given to us by the holy names. This is the goal. The goal is for us to be able to reciprocate with Krishna in an extraordinary personal relationship. That is the goal. Okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about faith, which is the second shower of nectar, Shraddha. Let's understand what people say about faith. Okay? Faith in religion is supposed to evoke one thing. Faith in any part of scripture, faith in coming in touch with any form of bona fide scripture is supposed to fundamentally bring us to the path of devotional service. It has to bring conviction. It has to bring devotional service. What is faith? Okay, let's talk a little bit about faith from the purview of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, we're going to go through a few verses where Krishna talks about faith. And these verses, he's very direct in the Bhagavad Gita because he's talking to Arjun. Arjun is a superlative devotee who has a relationship. Krishna is talking to him, so he's very direct in conveying what he thinks faith is. Okay, so let's look at those verses, and then what we will do is we will go into deeper aspects of what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also wants us to learn. Okay, first and foremost, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna makes this statement in 4.9. He says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tektva deham punardam janma naiti mameti so Arjuna. This is 4.9. What does this mean? He says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not upon leaving the body take his birth again in the material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. He's practically saying that even though someone sees me as a helpless child, even though someone sees me as a two-armed person who, basically is dealing in this world in a manner as if, he is a human being, he is actually transcendental. He's actually telling us that every pastime of his is completely transcendental, including the part of killing the asuras. It is transcendental. It is not done in the mode of ignorance. It is done in Shuddha Sattva. Krishna does not deal with the material modes. So he's telling us that one who understands me and understands my pastimes as being divyam, and he understands this through tattva. Okay, that's the clue in this particular verse. Now let's go and see the next verse, which talks about how to understand the transcendental appearance of Krishna. And why am I saying this? Because I said in the beginning that our objective is to attain pure devotional service. Our objective is to develop prema. Our objective is to develop, pure rati in one of the pure mellows and in a quite natural, completely consistent manner along with scripture. The reason I'm saying that is because as we go along each and every verse in the Bhagavad Gita, it is going to tell us what we need to do and where the problems are. Okay? We're going to see that. In the first verse that we looked at, 4.9, he says his pastimes are transcendental. But he does not say, just understand that. He says, understand it through tattva. What is tattva? Tattva is absolute consideration, shastra. He says, tattva is going to be the source of your coming to a complete understanding of my appearance and pastimes. In fact, this is very important for us to understand. If you're reading scripture, understand that the purpose of reading scripture is to prepare us for devotional service. What does it mean? It is to prepare us for experiences. That's what it means. We are being given knowledge to prepare us for experiences. The purpose of scripture is not to make us a pundit. The purpose of scripture is not so that we can quote verses left, right, and center, which is wonderful, but ultimately it is to enthuse us towards experiences. It is to prepare us for experiences so that when we do eventually have experiences, we are able to consistently say that this is scriptural conclusion, so this experience is bona fide. Okay? So that's it. So that's the reason why Krishna is saying, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tattvataha. Go to tattva and understand me. Okay? Now let's look at the next verse where he talks about how to understand tattva. We've gone over this before, but it's critical to understand it in this context. 4.34. Tadviddi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. He says, go approach someone who has understood and experienced tattva. Because this is the advanced devotee's conclusion. The devotee who has reached Nishtha, who has gone beyond Nishtha, has developed Ruchi and has developed Ashakti, attachment, and has reached Bhava and so on and so forth. Such a devotee will have 100% faith in Tattva. They will have 100% faith in Scripture. Why? Why is it that they have such 100% faith in Scripture? It's because Scripture has delivered what it promised. Would you not have 100% faith in someone who keeps delivering promises? That is the same conclusion which is being given by Krishna. The superlative devotee has accepted Scripture, and the Scripture has delivered its promise. He is able to experience the truth as given in the Scripture. Such a person is a Tattvadarshinaha. He can speak the truth because he knows Scripture, because he has experienced Scripture. He has 100% faith in Scripture. 100%. Okay? So he says, Krishna says, Tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Approach him. Approach such a person and approach him with seva. Do not go with a nonsensical attitude. Go with seva. Seva bhav. Okay? Be inquisitive, but be in the mood of wanting to serve, because that's going to bring forth humility. Humility would automatically make sure that we receive. You see? So Krishna says, Tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Go in the mood of seva. Once you go in the mood of seva, since that person has already seen tattva and he's a tattvadarshinaha, he has very deep faith in scriptures, because the scriptures have delivered whatever he thought was, he thought the scriptures were supposed to deliver. So imagine someone reading Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadambini, reading Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, experiencing all the stages. Wouldn't such a person be able to convey faith into our hearts, because he's a Tattvadarshi? He or she has seen the truth. They've experienced it. They have known what it is to be in Nishtha. They have known what it is to have Ruchi for the holy names. They have known what it is to have attachment, Ashakti. So they will be able to tell us what this is all about. And when such a person conveys Janma Karma Chame Divyam, when such a person conveys the activities of Krishna are transcendental, then we have the ability to accept it fully. So Krishna is saying, go to a person who has become a Tattvadarshi. By becoming a Tattvadarshi, that person serve him or her and then receive knowledge from such a source, because that knowledge can shatter ignorance. Okay, now let's look at the contrast. Let's look at further Bhagavad Gita verses where Krishna says this 4.34, that go approach someone and get knowledge, and then continues in chapter 4, Bhagavad Gita, transcendental knowledge. Chapter 4, okay, now he says this in 15.15. I'm jumping, I'm going to come back to 4. Okay, 15.15 Sri Bhagavad Gita is the Paribhasha Sutra of the Bhagavad Gita. What does it mean? Paribhasha means the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is this particular verse. Everybody knows Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. But in reality, 15.15 is the Paribhasha Sutra according to our Acharyas. This is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. What does 15.15 say? Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaisha sarvamaham eva vedyo vedanta krat vedavid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Okay, I want to just focus on the first line. I'll read the rest of the translation, but I'm focusing on the first one. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta. I am the knower of Vedas. This is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. This is the Paribhasha Sutra. Let's focus on the first line. Okay? Sarvasya chaham Hridi Sannivishto, he is in everybody's heart, Krishna. And then he says, Mattaha Smritir Jnanam Apohanamscha. He says that I am the source of remembrance, knowledge, and also forgetfulness. This is a very frightening statement coming from Krishna, where he says that not only is he going to help us remember him, he's also going to help us forget him. Amazing. Okay? He's going to say, he's going to help us remember him, he's also going to help us forget him. He first says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9 that my pastimes are transcendental. You have to first understand it by hearing Tattva. Then he says, go approach someone who has already seen Tattva, Tattva Darshinaha. Then he is saying in 15.15 that I'm going to help you remember, and I'm also going to help you forget me. Frightening. And where does this happen? The forgetfulness part is going to come because of offenses, which we spoke extensively about in Harinam Chintamani sessions. Okay? He helps us forget Krishna because we have desired to forget. Remember Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya, when they offended the Kumaras while they tried to enter the Vaikuntha planets, this was by the force of the Lord's will. So Jaya and Vijaya simply spoke in a manner that prevented the Kumaras, who were young children, who had the bodies of very young children, 5-year-olds, and they also had, you know, an appearance of extraordinarily young children. So as a consequence, the Kumaras were denied entry by Jaya and Vijaya. Okay? And what did Lord Narayana say? What did Lord Vishnu say? It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Vishnu, Krishna, just came down and he was not even wearing his shoes or slippers. He was in such a hurry when he understood that these transcendental personalities were at the gate and his servants had offended them, that he forgot to wear his own shoes. He just came. Krishna came. And what did he say? The first statement that he makes in the Srimad Bhagavatam is that they have forgotten me. Who has forgotten him? Jaya and Vijaya have forgotten me because they are committing offenses. They would not have committed offenses if they had understood and they had remembered me. Okay? Pretty awesome. And his statement was that they have forgotten me. And now in 15.15 we are saying that he's going to help us forget. Okay? He's going to help us forget. Why? Because offenses. Offenses can make us can bring out the potential where Krishna says, okay, it appears that you're committing offenses. It appears that you want to forget me. I'll help you forget me. Okay, that's where you see this steep decline that happens once people start committing offenses. Now let's hear further verses in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talks about faith. Okay, Bhagavad Gita Transcendental Knowledge, chapter 4, 40th verse. Okay, Agyash Shraddha Samshayatma Vinashyati Nayam Lokosti Naparo Nasukam Samshayatmanaha. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures. In 4.34, he says, approach someone who is a Tattvadarshi. Tattva, revealed scriptures. Absolute consideration of revealed scriptures. Now in 4.40, further down, he says, ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. He is repeating this again in 9.3, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the most confidential knowledge. Ashraddha Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapyamam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartamani. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in the material world. Okay, so now what did we learn from all these verses? We learned from all these verses that Krishna is basically linking his appearance and his pastime and faith in him to reveal scriptures. So the whole purpose of our coming in touch with revealed scriptures and having faith in them is to induce the propensity and interest in devotional service, is to ultimately bring us to the platform of Nishtha, Ruchi, Ashakti, so that we would have a personal relationship with Krishna and his associates. Okay? Now Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that has to happen by first coming in touch with the Tattvadarshinaha. Okay? And he also says, I will help you forget if you offend the Tattvadarshinaha. If you offend Vaishnavas, I will help you forget. He says that in 15.15, which is the Paribhasha Sutra. Then he again reminds people that you cannot know me If you doubt the revealed scriptures, you cannot know me. And that is 4.4 and 9.3 of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Now let's go back and see what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has spoken about. I just wanted to, set the stage so that we can talk about faith. Okay? And whenever you want to approach any topic, it is always best as an approach to first go to the Sri Bhagavad Gita. Go to Bhagavad Gita, pick up basically verses which are connected to the topic, and then build further evidence in Srimad Bhagavatam, because there will be incidents in Srimad Bhagavatam, like we shared the incidents of Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya, according to Krishna, lost faith. They forgot me. And because they forgot me, they offended you. This was a statement. Okay? And then you go on to Chaitanya Charitamrita to see how the people who have fully understood Tattva Darshan behave. Okay? Now there's a delineation of how things are, and you have to go in a stage-by-stage manner for us to understand this. Okay, now let's understand what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wants to convey about Shraddha. Adau Shraddha. We say, right? Adau Shraddha. Now let's talk about what is he saying. Now, I'm just going to read the translation. Now we shall discuss bhakti and the symptoms of bhakti. There are two kinds of bhakti. Shraddha, devotional service, performed with faith, and Mishra, mixed devotional service. So the first statement which Srila Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making is he is talking about faith-based devotional service, where the faith is complete. The faith is complete. This is Shuddha Bhakti. Okay? And the other part is Mishra Bhakti. And Mishra Bhakti is where faith in scriptures and faith in devotional service is actually contaminated. Mishra means mixed, contaminated with motivations for karma, which is fruitive activity, and motivations for jnana, which is knowledge for its own sake. Okay? When these motivations are there, bhakti is considered to be contaminated. So he says there are two motivations, two different types of bhakti. One is Shuddha Bhakti, the other is Mishra Bhakti. Mishra Bhakti has two branches, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. What does this mean? It means that someone who is performing Karma Mishra Bhakti is still self-centered. They are still self-centered, where they believe that gaining pleasure for their senses is still paramount. They are still self-centered. And as a consequence, they are engaging in bhakti with a lot of desires for sense gratification. And the sense gratificatory desires, produce fruitive desires, where they say that, okay, I'm doing this, it'll be nice if this can happen. It'll be nice if that can happen, so on and so forth. These are fruitive desires. The whole objective of bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti, is to be able to be free of fruitive desires. Okay? Is to be completely free of fruitive desires. So he's saying that there are two different types of bhakti. One is Shuddha Bhakti, the other is Mishra Bhakti. In Mishra Bhakti, we have Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Karma Mishra Bhakti is basically a situation where the devotee, or rather the practitioner, has not become fully satisfied with devotional service. Since they have not become fully satisfied with devotional service, they still have a lot of hankering for objects of this particular world. They are still connected to this world in terms of wanting to fulfill their desires in so many different ways. This is Karma Mishra Bhakti. The problem is that these desires in themselves become very troublesome because this is a lack of faith. This is actually a lack of faith. That is the reason why the distinction is coming in, where you're saying one is Shuddha Bhakti, where there's complete faith, where one does not want anything, they just want Krishna, they just want the relationship, they completely believe in the conclusion of the Shastras, they've completely accepted the conclusion of the Shastras, and as a consequence, they are able to hanker for Krishna. They are hankering for Krishna, Shuddha Bhakti. They are hankering for the relationship. The second case, Karma Mishra Bhakti, they are hankering for material benefits. They are hankering. There's a hankering where they are not satisfied. And why is it not satisfied? It is not satisfied because it's not being done properly. We're going to come into it next. We're going to come into very elaborate discussions on how we perform bhakti. It will be very interesting for us to be able to break it down and take it apart so that we would be able to come out of this particular sharing with complete good knowledge of what is to be eliminated what is the attitude to be eliminated, and what is to be kept. Okay, so there's a hankering in Karma Mishra Bhakti. This Jnana Mishra Bhakti is a different type of hankering. The Jnana Mishra Bhakti is more subtle. So therefore, it's even more difficult to remove. The Jnana Mishra Bhakta is someone, first of all, at a very broad definition, wants liberation. Okay? They want liberation because they've understood what is material energy and they want to be liberated. That is the primary motive. But more than that, when we come across those who have entered into the practice of devotional service and yet have propensity for jnana, you will find these souls engaging in a lot of mental speculation. Or pick up Srila Prabhupada's verse, and then they would not be able to draw upon the essence of Srila Prabhupada's verse. There will be elaborate discussions on what is wrong. Okay? There will be elaborate discussions on the purports of what is wrong, what is right. There will be elaborate discussions on all kinds of things which are completely based on speculation. Okay? It could be based on speculation. It could be, for most part. Because the purports given by Srila Prabhupada, the purports given by the Acharyas and the writings have to be approached as Krishna says. Srila Prabhupada is a Tattvadarshi. Approach that particular verse and the purport in the mood of a particular mood which Krishna gives in 4.9. Pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Approach in the mood of seva and see the verse and the purports enlivening us with the mood of wanting to perform more and more devotional service. This is Jnana Mishra, where there will be endless speculation. Endless. Okay? Endless. I've seen groups on Facebook and across the internet where endless speculation goes on the eternal form of Srila Prabhupada. Endless. Amazing. And whenever I see it, I feel very sad that why engage in such speculation on the eternal position of such an extraordinary personality as Srila Prabhupada? Why? Why not put all your energy into Shuddha Bhakti and understanding the glories of the holy name so that you could chant nicely and understand through the process of chanting of who Srila Prabhupada is when you reach the qualification? When you attain the qualification, when you have the adhikar to know who Srila Prabhupada is in his eternal swarup in Krishna's kingdom, then there would be no need to engage in internet discussions back and forth on what his mood was. Was he a cowherd boy? Was he an associate of Srimati Radharani? Amazing. Amazing. Why is it so important? Why are we trying to enter into sacred grounds without becoming sufficiently sacred? Honestly, devotees who are on this particular session or who are going to be viewing this video in future, please understand that put energy into chanting. Please put energy into chanting. Please put energy into understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. Please put energy into serving and rendering physical service. Put energy into improving devotional service. Leave all the speculation out because this is Jnana Mishra. This Jnana Mishra, if it does not enthuse you, can drag you down. Be very careful. Be very careful because these are lofty topics. And most of us do not have the adhikar to get into it. Most of us. Just reject and move on. Stick to what Srila Prabhupada has given us. It's safe. Srila Prabhupada, and I would like to mention this because it's very important for us. Srila Prabhupada studied our conditioning. His spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, studied our conditioning. They studied the conditioning of souls who are coming into the movement in the 70s, 30s, whatever the case may be, in modern day scenario, the industrialized world. After studying our conditioning, Srila Prabhupada translated. And he translated with the motive of bringing us to the platform of Nishtha. And once we come to Nishtha, then Srila Prabhupada's books open out. Every line which Srila Prabhupada writes will have a completely different viewpoint, which would be quite enriching for further, understanding of Krishna's activities. So he wrote books in a manner which would be safe for everybody, and he wrote purports in such a manner that we would be able to approach those purports and gain immensely and reach the platform of being able to make advancement from there on. Okay, this was a strategy adopted by Srila Prabhupada. Could Srila Prabhupada have included extraordinarily confidential topics? Yes. Why not? Why did he choose not to do so? Because he knew what was safe and what was not safe, and out of his endless compassion for those who are going to come into his family, he gave us exactly what we needed to bring us to the shore, and by doing so, he allowed us a point where we would be able to take off on our own. He brought us to the point where we would be able to take off on our own, and his books, again, further can enthuse us even after that. You see? That's the reason why we find that every year as we make advancement, if we're really making advancement, the purports would be completely different. You read the same English, you would walk away with a completely different meaning. You read the same translation, you will walk away with a completely different meaning. And when I say completely different, I mean enhanced. Not different in terms of, oh, last year I had an understanding and this year it's different. No. The substance would remain the same, but it would be very enhanced. Okay? So let's be very careful about how we are spending time, because Tattvadarshinaha has already been done by Srila Prabhupada. Let's accept his purports by Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya, and that would allow us to make further advancement. This does not mean that we should not inquire. It does not mean we should not scrutinize and study Shastra. But it should be that we are inquiring and studying and scrutinizing with the purpose of enhancing our devotional service. We are not studying, scrutinizing, and so on and so forth for the purpose of finding fault. Okay? That's where Krishna comes and says, 15:15, I will help you forget me. Krishna says, I will help you remember, I'll help you forget, because you have not come into an area which is so dangerous that you are now swimming in advanced waters. No, it is like people who want to swim. You want to swim in a deep, deep, deep water, be qualified as a swimmer. Otherwise, the waters will drag us down. Okay? Be very careful. So that's just my little caution, warning, whatever you want to call it, criticism, hopefully not. Okay? Because I'm seeing a lot of this happening on the internet. A lot. There's such communication going on topics which are not required in reality. In my humble opinion, it is not required. It is required, but it will occur naturally. Who our spiritual master is in eternal service to Krishna will occur naturally when we attain higher platforms of seva. It will occur naturally because that is the promise of our acharyas. That is the promise in scriptures. That is the promise in Harinam Chintamani. It will happen. Why wouldn't it happen? So why not just follow their ideas and go through and wait for our opportunity to know more? Why are we trying to enter into things where we may not be qualified to enter? We have to be careful. Okay? Let's work on Anartha Nivritti. Let's get rid of Anartha Nivritti. Let's get rid of the Karma Mishra Bhakti. Let's get rid of Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Okay? And then let's get rid of the other kleshas, which are a part of who we are. Let's focus on that. Okay? I can say with some pride that in almost around, say, 15 years plus of the internet, I've never read or focused on what is being presented as criticisms on devotees. This has been done out of fear. I have great fear. I have great fear of reading about devotees, the criticisms. There's so many websites which talk nonsense. I have great fear of going there. I've never been there. I'm very afraid. And sometimes during searches of this or that, if I bump into it, I really shiver and shut it down. So I'm requesting you as well. Don't play around. You have gotten a ticket to go to Vrindavan. Don't throw the ticket away. There's Krishna himself warning us, saying, don't play around. I'll help you forget. So don't play around with things which can be dangerous to what has been given, because this gift is irreplaceable. This should be treated with maximum care. Treat it as if it's your child. Treat it as if it's your own child. Okay? Treat it with great care. Because if you drop it, I don't know whether the circumstances will allow us to connect again. What is a guarantee? Okay, we'll have to understand this. What is a guarantee? What is a guarantee that we're going to come back to this planet before Kalki? What is a guarantee? He's going to come at the end of Kali Yuga, but what if we go to some other planet where the time span is different and then come back here? What if we miss this particular opportunity? What is our punishment? It makes me really shiver when I look at things where I also see devotees take things so casually. Some of these most dangerous things are taken so casually. It makes me shiver. I'm very afraid of this, honestly. I don't want to lose what's been given to me, and I'm merely sharing my fear to you so that you don't lose what's been given to you. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. Krishna is going to help you lose it if you take one misstep. Be very careful. It's a dangerous statement made by him in 15:15. He says, I will help you remember me, and I'll also help you forget. Okay? It's a frightening statement. It's almost as if he's going to make arrangements to help us forget him. Okay? Now, Jnana Mishra and Karma Mishra, we spoke about it. Karma Mishra, we're going to talk about it in great detail. Jnana Mishra, we touched upon it. Read, spend time for the purpose of enhancing your devotional service. Evaluate whether your reading has helped you. Have you really been helped by coming in touch with material that you spent the past hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? Have you been helped in your chanting? Have you been helped in your service? Are you able to view and become enthused about devotional service? Purpose of religion is to enthuse us towards devotional service. Are you enthused? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. It's a benchmark. Okay? Now, what else can we share today? Because we already are at 9:15. Right? Now, let's talk about one more thing. The good thing about Shuddha Bhakti, which is Bhakti with faith, and then Mishra Bhakti, is that when Mishra Bhakti, which is Jnana Mukti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, the person is not offensive. When he or she comes in touch with a pure devotee who carries Shuddha Bhakti, then this becomes automatically transformed to Shuddha Bhakti. You see, that's the beauty. The beauty is Mishra Bhakti is a condition where there might be desires, but the person is not offensive. As a consequence, Krishna and Bhakti Devi steer them slowly in association of elevated souls. By coming in touch with elevated souls who are Tattvadarshis, who have full faith in revealed scriptures. When does that full faith happen? Because the person has experienced what the scriptures has already spoken about. Scriptures talk about Bhava Bhakti. The person has experienced Bhava Bhakti, and then he can share what is Bhava Bhakti. In other words, he can speak about it and enthuse us. Okay? So in such a manner, when this Karma Mishra Bhaktas, Jnana Mishra Bhaktas, they come in touch with Shuddha Bhaktas, their Bhakti gets completely transformed. It gets completely transformed. Their Bhakti gets completely transformed into Shuddha Bhakti. So there's great hope even for Mishra Bhaktas. So you have Shuddha Bhakti, then you have Mishra Bhakti. These are two branches. Now, it is also said that Bhakti Devi gradually converts the iron of material sense gratification to gold, just as much as a piece of iron, piece of stone comes in touch with Chintamani, it becomes into gold. Okay? The exact statement is, Bhakti Devi is the inspiration for all activities favorable to the process of surrender to the Supreme Lord. She is the inspiration. So if you really want to know if Bhakti Devi is showering her mercy upon us, we'll have to know if we're inspired. If you're inspired, Bhakti Devi is showering her mercy upon us. Like the touchstone, Bhakti Devi gradually converts the iron of material sense perception. Material sense perception, the iron of material sense perception is being gradually converted, and it is becoming, the gold of spiritual understanding. It is becoming the gold of spiritual understanding. So we'll stop here because we have taken up some time. And then next week, in the next session, which is on Thursday, we will be talking about the 2 leaves of Shuddha Bhakti. We will be talking about Vaidhi, and then we will be talking about the Raga Marga, which is the second leaf. So he talks about Kleshagni and Shubhada, which are 2 different manifestations of Shuddha Bhakti. So we're going to talk about Kleshagni and Shubhada in the next particular session. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and I would just like to hear any questions if you have, so that I may help you. And today I'm just going to summarize as you put your questions forth. The primary purpose of today was we looked at the fact that Krishna talks about faith. He talks about faith in 4.9. He says that his appearance on this planet, his appearance in any planet, is completely transcendental. And he says that this has to be understood through the process of tattva. And then in 4.34, he's telling us, go and approach someone who is a tattva darshinaha. He or she would be able to direct you and strengthen your faith. Because faith in revealed scriptures is the basis for moving forward. Okay? Faith in revealed scriptures is the basis for moving forward, which will enthuse our devotional service. So Krishna says, understand that my appearance and pastimes, and that understanding has to come from tattva. And then you have to approach a tattva darshinaha, and that tattva darshinaha, whoever is the realized soul, who has realized scripture, who has read scripture, who has seen scripture and enact itself, such a person would be able to purify ourselves, purify our faith, tattva darshinaha. He says this in 4.9. Further, we looked at 15.15, where he says, if you want to remember me, I'll help you. He also says, if you want to forget me, I will help you. And then we looked at 4.40, where he says that those whose faith is weak and who are faithless, who keep doubting, okay, they are not going to find any happiness anywhere. So he's practically condemning those who do not have faith in revealed scriptures. Okay? And in 9.3, he is again repeating that those who do not have faith will have nowhere to go. So faith is such an important thing. And then we're coming into Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's discussion. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is talking about several things, and he first talks about the fact that there are two types of bhakti. He talks about Shuddha Bhakti and he talks about Mishra Bhakti. Mishra Bhakti is Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra. We spoke about each of those. And then we say that those who have Karma Mishra and Jnana Mishra, if they come in touch with an advanced devotee who has Shuddha Bhakti, then they have the ability to transform the Mishra Bhakti into Shuddha Bhakti, which is a great boon. And Bhakti Devi basically allows them, they're coming in touch with Chintamani. So the advanced soul is considered to be a Chintamani, a wish-fulfilling stone, right? A stone that transforms ordinary material into gold. So those who have mixed devotion, coming in touch with pure devotion, they become transformed into gold. They reach the same quality. It's like iron being put into fire will become fire if it reaches the temperature of fire. Okay? So we looked at that. In the coming session, which is on Thursday, we will be looking at the two branches of Shuddha Bhakti. We will be looking at what is, Kleshagni. Kleshagni. So we'll be looking at distress, Klesha, and how Shuddha Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti destroys such distress. We'll be looking at Shubhada. We'll be looking at what is good fortune. We'll be making a distinction between the two in the coming session. Okay? So we'll stop here. We'll see the question. I have one question. Is Tulsi Devi also regarded as Bhakti Devi? Yes. Yes. She enhances our Bhakti. She enhances Bhakti. So what we should do is understand that these two personalities are different. But Sri Tulsi Devi enhances our Bhakti. Personalities are different, but they are different. They are the same. They perform the same function. They give us Bhakti. See, the Sanat Kumaras, the four Kumaras, they were Brahmavadis. Their mood of understanding Krishna was not so much of wanting to associate with him in person. They were not really enthusiastic about associating with him in person. You see, they believed more in the existence of Brahman. They believed more in pursuing the goal of attaining Brahman. Okay? They believed more in knowledge as opposed to, the function of knowledge, which is to serve. But one day, they were able to smell the tulsi leaves offered to the Lord. And they were able to smell the tulsi leaves offered to the Lord, and that transformed their interest. They went on from becoming Brahmavadis to becoming pure devotees. So when we start considering that Tulsi Devi has such potency, the offered tulsi leaves to the Lord carry so much potency because Krishna loves tulsi so much that they are able to transform the consciousness of these great personalities and take them from the level of Brahman to pure devotional service. So one can understand her potency. So she is not the same as Bhakti Devi, but she plays an essential role which is almost the same as Bhakti Devi. So Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi, they are one and the same in the sense that they perform the same essential role, but she is not the same. The personality of Bhakti Devi is one who basically is the potency of Krishna. She is an internal potency. She is internal potency, but she is independent of Krishna. And she is independent of Krishna because she is also the giver of pleasure to Krishna. See, she puts him sometimes in Maya, right? This is Yoga Maya. She puts him in Maya. Similarly, Tulsi arranges the forest of Vrindavan to suit the pleasure of the divine couple. So they all facilitate and they have similar services. So that way we can understand that they're more or less the same, but they're quite different. So the other question which came up was, as bhakti is given by devotee of Krishna, so is it that we should approach Uttama Bhakta as the having maximum to give? Yeah, those who have, they can give. If there's someone is a Uttama Bhakta, then they have the ability to give a lot because they have seen a lot. Okay, so whom should we approach? We should approach Tattvadarshinaha. Okay, we should approach sincere servants of Srila Prabhupada. We should approach Srila Prabhupada's books and sincere servants of Srila Prabhupada who have followed Srila Prabhupada's edicts. Why is that important? Because they have sincerely followed, they would have the ability to give us sincerity. And by sincerity, I mean that we would be able to accept Srila Prabhupada's mission, we'll be able to accept Srila Prabhupada's books, scriptures, and so on and so forth. And that would allow us to make progress. Okay? But to answer your question, it is like someone who is a rich man, someone who is, has $1 million, has the maximum ability of being able to give, $1 million, perhaps less. Someone who has 1 billion has the ability to give more than 1 million, several millions. So in that context, one can say that the Uttama Bhakta has maximum potency. Maximum potency. Right? Narottam Das Thakur sings, right? In Guru Puja, Guru Vandana, right? Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, Chittete Koryaikya. By hearing from a person who is a Tattvadarshi and who has been positioned and is going to be used by Krishna to attract us. Krishna's word, Krishna, the name Krishna is Krishna, means Krish, to have Akarshita Shakti, to be able to attract. Na is to give Ananda. He is able to attract us and give us pleasure. So Krishna attracts us. How does he attract us? He attracts us through the devotees. He attracts us through Guru. He attracts us through Siksha and Diksha Gurus. He attracts us so that their own speech, their own classes, their own singing, so on and so forth, attracts us and is able to give us faith. This is Krishna operating through those personalities. Okay? So in that sense, the more a person is surrendered, the more a person is advanced, greater would be their ability to allow Krishna to pass through. The greater the ability to pass through, greater would be the effect on people who have come in touch with them. So that answers your question, hopefully. Now, let me see one more question. Dhruva Maharaj and Prahalad Maharaj have realized the truth when they were very young. Then why did they choose Grahastha life, which is full of problems to maintain the family? Okay. You see, they realized the truth, yes, but what has ashram got to do with the truth anyways? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had 11 children. Was he less realized than someone who was wearing the garb of a sannyasi? No. He played such a prominent role in our whole line. Okay? He had 11 children. It is said that in his house in Surbi Kunj, he had a door made which was specifically of 7 inches or 8 inches. Pretty thick wooden door. And the idea was to be able to lock the room so that he could chant japa. So he must have many children, right, running around. So he used to have, he wanted this quietude. He used to lock the room. But he also adjusted his timings where he used to sleep, when others used to be awake. So he used to sleep between, say, 7:30 and 10. He used to be awake at 10 o'clock. He used to keep going till 4 o'clock in the morning. So he used to finish all his work when everybody was sleeping. He used to be up, 1 hour of sleep in the morning. He used to be ready to engage. Okay? This is not to be imitated because it's very difficult. He was a pure surrendered devotee. He had the power of the holy names, and he was able to do that. The point which you want to make is realizing that Krishna is a samam bonum and choosing a certain ashram are two different things. Both Dhruva and Prahlad Maharajas were kings. They were Kshatriyas by Dharma and they had to rule. So they had to perform duties. They also wanted to prove that birth, age, birth in a certain kula, one was an Asura, the other was born in a Kshatriya family, being able to rule an entire planetary system, Dhruva, being able to rule an entire class of people, Prahlad Maharaj, he was Ashura Shiromani. This is not something which is going to prevent you from obtaining pure devotional service. They wanted to prove that. Thirdly, they also wanted to prove that ashram doesn't matter. One can be a grahastha, one can be a vanaprastha, brahmachari, okay? It doesn't matter, okay? So it was not a matter of, oh, I have known Krishna and so on and so forth, so, why take all this bother? They were also duty conscious, and to perform the duty, they had to take on a certain ashram. It is easier to be in the grahastha ashram when you are trying to engage a lot in the world, like a king. Janaka Maharishi, Mother Sita's father. He was a Raja Rishi, completely, fully realized, but he was a Rishi also and a Raja also. So how do you perform that function? Better to be in the Grahastha ashram. Someone approached me a few years back and they wanted to know if they could engage in business but be brahmachari. I said, no. If you want to be brahmachari, go to the ashram. You want to engage in business, get married. Because you cannot be both. Okay? You cannot serve Krishna in dealing with this world and engaging in this world a great extent in doing business and all of this, and also, remain in that ashram. You have to choose a proper vehicle. So the vehicle in itself is a choice, but it does not offer disruption. It does not offer disruption. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So that's again proof given by them. So that's how we should take it. But you are a realized soul, Govardhan Prabhu. realize from the aspects of Grahastha ashram as well. So you seem to write a question there, full of problems. Srila Prahlad Maharaj talks about it in the 7th canto. He calls it Andhakupa. He calls it a blind well. Grahastha ashram is a blind well. It is. But that is Grahamedi. Grahastha is someone who has understood the function of life and is using the ashram as a vehicle. He is not looking at everything as an obstacle. He is using it as a vehicle to move forward. Okay, I hope this was satisfactory, but we have very good examples. Our line, we are so fortunate. We have Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, who is extreme in renunciation. We have Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who had, 11 plus children and who was functioning fully as a judge and so on and so forth in the government. And then we had his son, Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur, who basically was a Naistiki brahmachari. Very, very Pakka brahmachari right from the beginning. Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj was married first, then he took renunciation. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, never. He was a straight brahmachari, straight into sannyas ashram. Okay, so we have so many wonderful examples in our own line of our acharyas. Many of them were grahasthas. Nityananda Ram was a grahastha, but I leave him out. He's an exception, right? Mahaprabhu himself was in the grahastha ashram, and then he took sannyas. Why did he take sannyas? Not because the grahastha ashram as such was a problem. He took sannyas because people generally don't like to, they wouldn't have respected him if he had been a grahastha. Those days, or even today, grahasthas, if they speak tattva, they may not be as respected as a sannyasi but in conservative society. A sannyasi automatically, is a situation where people become respectful. And they immediately begin, respecting him. So Mahaprabhu wanted to also offer protection so that there are no offenses committed, because we're wearing the garb of a sannyasi, and he was such a strict sannyasi that people respected him, and they also did not commit offenses because it was so dangerous. So that was the other side to it. But he did not do so for the purpose of wanting to avoid the grahastha ashram. Okay, he wanted Nityananda Ram to get married, and Nityananda Ram married, two personalities, Vasudha and Mother Janava, two of them. So not an obstacle as such. So that's how the fully realized souls of Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, who had experienced Krishna so wonderfully, also found that it was not an obstacle. In fact, there's no obstacle if you realize. That's the other answer. The other answer is there is no obstacle if you realize. The obstacles come when there's no realization. Okay? That is the other side to it. I hope that is there. Thank you so much. And if there are any more questions, I think we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much for joining us and for enthusing us. We'll continue further in the coming session where we'll, go deeper. Thank you.